Hello everyone. Before we start today's video, if you could all do me a solid and lightly tap the like button, perhaps share the video about and leave a comment. If you are not subscribed, subscribe as well. It would greatly help this channel. Thank you very much. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's log, subdates 221222.7. I swear I'm going to obliterate the NPC crew that thought it clever to send me these tragic excuses for gifts. New Year shall commence with a shipwide purge. I'ma go get my morning star on. Welcome everyone to the second of the week exhibition of stupid people. Today we're going to start with a delivery driver. At this time of year, many people would rather hibernate, and best way to do that is to order takeout. Uber Eats, Deliveroo, or any of your favoured takeaway spots that have delivery options. For this, we're going to go with Domino's. It is tradition in my household on Christmas Eve to order takeaway, with a 1 hour advance warning of course, because it's impossible to get takeaway here on Christmas Eve. If I'm going to have takeaway, I'll order pizza. In my town, there's only one, Domino's. For many systems, delivery drivers are paid a rate. They're paid a wage, a salary. Some delivery drivers perform exceptionally well, delivering exceedingly fast, and are just lovely people, and for that they get tipped. Well, a customer posted security camera footage of a Domino's delivery driver asking them for a tip as they handed them a pizza. What makes it more amusing is that when the person receiving the pizza doesn't immediately offer a tip, the delivery driver points out that the customer has a car. She then tells them to drive to get their pizza. The customer then goes on to explain that the driver, well, is more convenient, and simply says, "Have a good day," without handing them a tip, with the delivery driver saying on the way out, "Come get it next time," as they leave the porch. The caption to the video reads, "The entitlement is killing me." Should I play that video just so you get the full context?
Yep.
Thank you.
No.
Yeah.
So you have a car? So you... Okay, yes.
Well,
Just so you
I'm
know.
paying for the convenience, so.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
But
You have a good day. Take care.
Come get it, next time.
This particular video went on to get over 2.7 million views. Users were a little bit split on this. Some criticizing the customer, because you've got a car, it being a little embarrassing perhaps not to tip the driver. Others correctly, and yes, I'm taking a side in this, pointing out though, if someone turns up and says tip, before I had a chance to even reach in my pocket and grab it, I simply wouldn't give it to her anymore. Also, if you say tip, I'm not going to want to give you a tip. A tip comes from generosity, it is not a part of the process. It is meant to be a done if I want to thing. It isn't compulsory, and I'm not paying for the additional service, am I? I'm paying for the food. The service part was paid for when I paid for the food. They pay for you. You after all do get wages. Rather amusingly, the user in question, the customer, responded to some of the outrage about not tipping by sharing a different video telling the driver and others who were upset that they could simply learn to code. I like that. That's a journalist joke. I get it. So next, while we're talking about delivery drivers, let's talk about Royal Mail. In the United Kingdom, they were once publicly owned, now privately owned, and a whole plethora of problems have arisen because of this. Charlie, aka Pretty Cringy on Twitter, tweeted, "Hey at Royal Mail, please pay your employees fairly and treat them well because these strikes aren't it." Now I retweeted this with some numbers because I know them. I love that Royal Mail said it was losing money, 219 million to be precise, yet they paid over 884 million to shareholders in the last 3 years, and said they were 235 million in profit last year. Oh, and they also have received bailouts from the UK government. Does it make any sense? Of course it bloody doesn't. Strikes have been taking place, and there are a couple of reasons why. One, opportune moment. Christmas being the most obvious, they will be the busiest. The second, because how much the shareholders received, the cost of living going up, and their wages are not going up with it. So understandably, they've hooked up with their union representatives and said, "Sayonara, we're going off for a bit." To the point, it cost more to pay for that, the strikes that is, than it did Royal Mail to cover furlough during COVID. That's how bad and effective it is. In this instance, the issue is quite clear. The agreement set in place with the shareholders gave them a far greater dividend, and in turn meant that the employees who give them the dividends in the first place by putting the work in are not also reaping a suitable benefit for their hard work. Whoever agreed that agreement is a moron, just on the face of it, because of the losing money of 219 million yet being in profit of 235 million. Speaks volumes about how ineffective your business model is, to the point Royal Mail have said that first class stamps of all things will rise above £1 unless Saturday letter deliveries are scrapped. Now the reason for that is because then they don't pay their staff as much, which is unsurprising. If you can't pay them correctly, in line with inflation and living costs, or perhaps a little more considering how much walking they do, chances are you're going to try and find a different way to screw them over. Why pay them more when you can pay them less, or increase their wages but only enough to cover the one day they now lose when working 5 days instead of 6? But we're not done. You see, Royal Mail has decided because of the strikes they're going to ask for a bit of assistance. Members of the CW Union, which represent more than 115,000 postman pats, took the national strike. The 48-hour action started on the 14th, further striking on the 23rd of December, one of the busiest days. Where it gets better is, the CWU tweeted out, "Oh wow, next level desperation from Royal Mail. The support for the strike is so strong that they are asking managers to bring in friends and family to clear the backlog. Not only are you a strike breaker, but your family can be too. On the ropes, #stand by your post." Underneath is an image to support this, confirming they are asking for temporary assistance. At this time of year, asking for a Christmas temp is not uncommon. But in the middle of a strike to ask your employees, those who have not gone on strike, managers who are on salary, yeah, this looks a bit shitty. How about you simply do what the government's supposed to do with the NHS and the nurses? Simply find the money and give them what they deserve. I agree 100% with Jonathan Pye on this one, when he said it in context of the nurses. They are being left behind, and much like the nurses, although in a different area so it could be argued to be a false equivalence, postal workers, especially those that do all the deliveries, are overworked. I love that when Jeremy Corbyn was leader of the opposition and trying to jockey for prime ministerial roles, I say roles twice because he failed 2 elections, he said he would only want one delivery service, the Royal Mail, which he would renationalise. The problem with that is, if he had won, we'd all be screwed right now. Before anyone asks why it was privatised entirely because the government said that it was failing, but profits for Royal Mail were an all-time high at that point. In fact, they were higher when they were sold than they are this year. So the final subject for today's installment of the exhibition of stupid people, we're going to insert a band, very successful British band called The 1975. You can go back as far as 2016, where the singer Matthew Healy has been accused of a number of things, along with collaborators. In 2016, a female journalist had accused Matthew Healy of sexually harassing her. What had happened was, Alyssa Nilsson had an interview with Matthew Healy. He had told her during this that he was sex addicted and would love to meet her after the concert. In 2018, Matthew Healy had to apologise for comments on misogyny in hip-hop, along with apologising for comments in an interview where he stated that misogyny doesn't happen in rock and roll anymore, saying that the reason it doesn't happen is because it's a vocabulary that existed for so long that it got weeded out. It still exists in hip-hop because the genre is so young, but it will stop. The band's popularity hasn't wavered, by the way. In 2021, there was a Change.org petition called Justice for Victims of Adam Powell. Adam Powell is a videographer, music video director, and he has worked with members of the 1975. In September of 2022, Matthew Healy actually spoke about how he has struggled with fame because he feels like the fan base for the 1975 have sexualized him, and this in turn has harmed his ability to engage in romantic relationships. The reason I'm doing this with a timeline is so you can understand that this isn't as straightforward as it seems. And as far as the sexually harassed thing at the beginning goes, no, it wasn't that. Matthew Healy is known for his rather strange on-stage antics. During a recent tour, he started getting tattoos on stage. The more recent being during a show in Newport, Kentucky, where he had the words, "I'm a man," tattooed onto his body. This is important. But other things he has started doing, along with engraving other letters at other points, would include eating raw meat on stage. I assume he's aspiring to be Liver King 2.0, but the version of him that has never used PEDs. During this more recent tour, which is on a break until January, he has taken to fondling himself on a sofa, doing push-ups, and of course, steak. Now, as I like steak, I take no issue with it, even if it is raw. I assume you brought the cow onto the stage and took a bite out of that ass. But the reason he's really featured in the news, Matthew Healy that is because he's taken a lot of flack. Because he kissed a member of his audience, a fan. Now this, on the face of it, doesn't sound strange. It's a bit weird on its own, actually. A lot of people are very careful with how they behave. They don't want to be seen crossing too many lines. Because there's a chance of being Me Too'd, there is a reasonable chance you could be slapped with any number of lawsuits. Potentially lol suits as well. In this instance, what makes it unique is the fact that he asked for ID first, which was passed to him by the security at the venue for him to confirm the age of that member of the audience before he kissed her. Naturally, being asexual Amish that I am, I find this all very strange and of course heathenly. Blasphemous, is that it? Yes. But him checking her age to make sure she was old enough, I kinda get it. Because I don't think he ever wants to run the risk of getting arrested for kissing a minor. Because that's always a risk, isn't it? The age check is strange on the face of it, but again, it makes sense. I can't show clips of this particular incident, but an article down below does have the clip. In the clip, he says you better not be effing 16, which is what then led to her proving she's 22 years old. Reason why is because she's never been kissed before, so he gave her first kiss. Some people who've called him out for this have said, if you need to ID someone before kissing them, then don't kiss them. Others, how old are they? When I was younger, this was a dream for sure and I'm happy for them. But at this point, the ethics of this situation scares me. Another, I've never been to a single concert where someone in the band comes down, makes out with a random audience member, and I've been to over 100 different shows, including one where they spill blood on everyone. Why on earth are some of you saying this isn't weird? This was then obviously shared to TikTok. And yes, TikTok, they like to pounce on everything that could be remotely predatory. But as words mean nothing there, I'm not going to take any of it as anything other than virtue signaling and grain of salt bullshit. In this instance, I take the firm stance that he was checking to make sure she was old enough. As in, not lying about being 22, therefore, two consenting adults engage in a kiss. Nothing more than that, really. People reading too much into this, do try to keep up. She's 22. The outrage is unnecessary. I will admit Matthew Healy's antics are quite strange, and over the years he's been accused of a number of things, but as you've seen, the earlier mentioned sexual harassment wasn't it at all. He just made an inappropriate comment, that's all. He made some comments about rock and hip-hop and had to apologize for it. Why? Because he's in a band that is hugely successful, and he has to protect the brand of the band. He is the face of it after all. The collaborator, I would hope they don't work with them for the sake of it. Optics don't make them look any good, until everything is ironed out. I know nothing of Adam Powell. The strange antics on stage, they changed their set for the new tour. They wanted to make things different and improved and better. I've seen a video of their live show. It is very good. It's not my kind of music, but it's still very good. And the more recent one, Mountain Molehill Keyboard Warriors.